I am someone who has pretty much battled weight and body image issues since I was a child. I was obese as a kid. TV and sodas and junk food were my friends. The first thing you see when you look in the mirror is this person who doesn't look like what I see on TV. I distinctly remember at the age of 12 asking my mom to make me cabbage soup because that was the fad diet back in the 80s and 90s. I've always been on some sort of diet. I had blood work done and it showed that I had high total cholesterol, which was probably from all of the fat I was consuming during my keto phase. This was very shocking for someone who thought they were making healthy choices and eating healthy. After having 2 kids, I had gained 30 pounds. So I was carrying 75 kilos around while having to take care of a newborn and a toddler. I'm a single mom. So at that time, I really started to look for avenues in how I could better control my health. And it was probably the smartest decision I've ever made. Now, post RNT, my kids see me working out. Our Sundays are a day of meal prep. I see them mimicking me during the journey. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're moving consistently in the right direction.
Okay, so Priya, take me back to the end of 2021. What were the series of moments, of trigger moments for you to kickstart your RNT journey?
So I do recall my trigger moments in the fall of 2021. But even thinking past that trigger, I am someone who has pretty much battled weight and body image issues since I was a child. I was obese as a kid. And I distinctly remember at the age of 12 asking my mom to make me cabbage soup because that was the fad diet back in the 80s and 90s at the age of 12. And I asked her if she could make that for me so I can drink that for a week in order to drop weight fast. So, I've had this tendency towards extreme yo-yo dieting. I've suffered from, body image issues even before the age of 12. As soon as I became conscious of my body, I was an obese kid. So, the yo-yo dieting has always followed me. But it wasn't until I had kids and I struggled with time management and just to have time in general, it became harder to focus on my health. And even though I was overweight, I always considered myself healthy. I always considered myself active. I used to do, different gym classes, spinning classes, Orange Theory, and such. But even at my baseline weight, now with being part of the RNT team, I realized that I was overweight. So I'm 5'4" on a good day. So maybe 5'3" to 5'4". And at baseline, my weight was 140 pounds, which is 63 kilos. And this is while I was active. And now postpartum, after having 2 kids, I had gained 30 pounds. So I was carrying 75 kilos around while having to take care of a newborn and a toddler. So this was just physically taxing for me, taxing on my body. And it was demoralizing, to be honest with you, not to be able to play with the kids and just be present. So at that time, again, with the yo-yo dieting mentality, I started intermittent fasting and ketoing. And it almost became a competition with myself to see how long I could fast for. So I would engage in these 24-hour fasts where I would drink just black coffee and salt water or electrolyte water. And every time I had a weekend of overindulgence, overeating, or drinking too much, it would be followed by a 24-hour fast. So, I pretty much continued this. I also enlisted the help of an online coach who designed a nutrition and training program for me. But because it was online and I didn't engage as much as I should have, and the typical course of a program is 12 weeks, I pretty much dropped out of that program as well. So, these things were happening in the background. But my actual trigger happened when I went to see my primary care doctor in the fall of 2021. And I had put this off for years. And I had blood work done. And it showed that I had high total cholesterol, which was probably from all of the fat I was consuming during my keto phase. And it also showed that I had high fasting blood sugars. So, this was very shocking for someone who thought they were making healthy choices and eating healthy. And at that time, I realized I really needed to make some meaningful changes in my life. I'm a single mom. So I obviously, my health, I value my health. I want to be around for my kids. So just from a long-term standpoint, I wanted to set a positive example for my daughters, not be put on medication long-term. So at that time, I really started to look for avenues in how I can better control my health. So I started eating more plant-based foods. I started exercising. It was during the time of COVID, so a lot of gyms were closed. So I built a home gym, and I started exercising at home. And then coincidentally, at this time, I happened to see an acquaintance of mine on Facebook, and she had posted about her RNT transformation, and it just blew my mind. And so this led me to go onto RNT's website. I started reading case studies, and I saw other women, South Asian women, busy mothers, single mothers, and this just completely blew my mind. And I really knew I wanted to be a part of this group of people that were making changes to their life. So I think a month after that, I didn't want to lose the momentum or hesitate and convince myself out of it. So a month later, I signed up, and I became a part of the January 2022 cohort. And it was probably the smartest decision I've ever made.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there with regards to your health and fitness journey, because it's been something that's been going on for over 3 decades. I'd like to start right at the beginning, if that's okay. When you first became conscious of your body, and at 12 years old, you're asking your mum to go on a cabbage soup diet. What was your mum's reaction, and where did that come from?
She was aware that I was overweight as a kid. And to be honest with you, this was not always the case. I was born in India, where we ate a lot of unprocessed, home-cooked foods. We had a diet. I was a vegetarian as a child, so we ate a lot of fruits and vegetables, and things were brought home and prepared. It was a well-balanced diet. But it wasn't until we moved to Canada. I immigrated to Canada at the age of 8. And it was a complete culture shock, being in a new country. We lived in a small city where there weren't a lot of South Asians. My parents, both of them were starting their careers, so they were working often. So this pretty much left my sister and I to the care of neighbors and ourselves. And I don't know if my mom was even aware of this. She was so preoccupied with just being an immigrant mother. While she was at work, I used TV, sodas, junk food as means to combat loneliness. I had a language barrier. Didn't speak English very well, so there was a component of not adjusting to school and having friends. Going from having an extended family with grandparents and uncles to now being very lonely. So TV and sodas and junk food were my friends, and they were addictive. It was almost like a drug. So, and I didn't have someone at home telling me that you need to portion control or do this or that. But according to my mom, she did her best, and she would still prepare home cooked foods. And so I'm not really sure how she felt, but she obliged, and she did make me the cabbage soup because she thought this was my attempt to get healthy,
And what happened when you tried it?
It was another fad diet. I did it for a week, and it was not manageable. And, being a child, you got more guidance. You need someone helping you. But, during that time, it was the 80s and 90s. There wasn't that that mentality in my household, or maybe a lot of households, of like portion control and just living an active lifestyle and just making better choices. The kind of things that I impart for my kids now, that wasn't there. So, it probably lasted a week, and back to, the old ways and the old cycle.
I guess what I was probably pointing at is the fact that you're 12 years old going on a cabbage diet. When you just say it out loud, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
I remember it distinctly. Mm-hmm.
And what do you remember about that moment, about that experience?
I felt...
you were just that whole period of your life.
Yeah, I felt very self-conscious. Especially you're hitting puberty, you're young. And the first thing you see when you look in the mirror is this person who doesn't look like what I see on TV. Doesn't look like what other kids who maybe are living a more balanced and active lifestyle look like, And the feedback I got from other kids, there's a lot of negative feedback. When you can't be physically as active. If I was overweight, so I couldn't participate in a lot of sports at school. So just my self-image was not just a reflection of what I saw in the mirror, but also a reflection of what I saw on TV, the feedback I got from other kids, getting made fun of, getting teased. So that's how my teenage years pretty much started for me.
And as a mother of a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, how does it shape your parenting now?
We, pre-RNT, I always had an approach to health and wellness, exercising and a healthy lifestyle. But now, post-RNT, my kids see me working out in the home gym. They see me meal prepping. So it's shaped, our Sundays are a day of like meal prep and food prep and just being active with the girls. And it's become a ritual for me. And I see them mimicking me, in the gym. They're lifting weights, pretend weights. Now as a family, we go on walks together, we go bike riding. So I am more conscious of it and they are more conscious of it. And they use language like, when we talk about unprocessed foods, we use language like, these are healthy things. Eating fruits and vegetables are healthy. So a 4-year-old is able to gauge that a cookie will not fill you up as much as a carrot will. So they have that vocabulary now as well.
And how do you think it shaped you as you went through your teens and into your 20s and becoming an adult? What behaviors do you feel it drove you towards, whether positively or destructively?
I think my self-image was always tied into my weight. And depending on what phase of life I was in, whether I was studying in school or working when I had more time, depending on where my weight's at, my self-confidence at. And so when, if I had gained weight, then it would be followed by a period of extreme dieting. So the yo-yo dieting followed me. My self-worth being tied into how much I weighed followed me. The feedback I got from other people, if I lost weight or gained weight, in my family, I think I've always been known as the health conscious daughter. I have a sister, and between the two of us, I've always been the more health conscious sibling. So I think dieting has been kind of synonymous with all periods of my life. I've always been on some sort of diet. And I think it takes up a lot of bandwidth and it clutters your mind mentally when you're always looking for the next fad diet. Now, can I keto, or can I intermittent fast, or can I do this, or can I do that,
And when you were approaching RNT, what made you think, well, how's this going to be different to another diet, another fad? Because we get a lot of skepticism from people who like yourself have tried so many different things and they're just fed up. Why did you want to take a final chance and a final leap?
Well, it wasn't so much RNT that I was worried about. It was because I did have an online coach who had designed a nutrition and training program for me. It was not having faith in myself that I would show up for myself that I was worried about. I had read extensive case studies. I had seen extensive transformation, and I was confident that committing to this process, I would see changes, but I was more worried about showing up for myself. And I don't think I had that confidence in myself because of my history. I think one thing that helped set the stage was committing to a 12-month program and knowing that there's no short end to this. I have to make it through these 12 months. And this is not something that it's not going to be a quick fix. So I need to build habits that will carry me through these 12 months, and that was just the start of it. And so I think just having that set the stage. I also read your book at that time, so it gave me a roadmap of what to expect, the different phases of the journey, the whole mindset piece of it. So I knew that if I committed to the process and the checklist, step by step, I may not run to the end. I may crawl, but as long as I move in the right direction. So I wasn't sure, but I took a leap of faith, and I decided to give it one last try.
And what were you saying in your head to get over this fear of failure or this fear of commitment in yourself? How are you overcoming that? Because you can read the book, you can have the 12 months in front of you, but you can still end up doing nothing, right?
Right.
How did you, what did you do to get the wheels in motion and you can overcome that inertia?
I said to myself, one thing I said to myself, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as you move forward, as long as you're consistent, just one step at a time, one day at a time. You have to take the step to move forward and do what is asked of you, be coachable, integrate what you've learned into your daily habits, and taking those small steps, reading the book. I started tracking my steps. Prior to RNT, I had no idea how many steps I was even doing. So the month before when I started tracking my steps, I was doing maybe 2,000 to 3,000 steps at most with my desk job. So doing the 10,000 steps a month before, all of those things, piece by piece, I started building trust and integrity with myself. So it wasn't January 2022, let's go. It was December, let's read the book, let's start doing the steps, let's start listening to the podcast, getting tips on how I can make this process successful. And I kept saying at the beginning of the journey, even during the journey, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're moving consistently in the right direction. And eventually things will fall into place. Amazing.
So when you started in January 2022, how did you fit everything in and run your life in tandem with this program? As a single mom of two young girls, I can't imagine what your day-to-day is like. So maybe for the listeners, especially the parents here, give some advice on maybe just share your experiences of how you started nutrition, meal prepping, training, steps, etc.
The process was much easier than I thought. I'll start with that. And having done the preparation the month before, I knew what to expect, at least to some degree. I knew what I was about to embark on. And it wasn't easy. I had the common pitfalls and common struggles, thinking about why the scale weight isn't dropping fast enough. Why do I have to weigh everything? Why do I have to weigh my food? I've never weighed anything in my 40 years of life. Like, why do I have to do this? But because I was coachable, I listened. I decided, I'm going to follow what my coaches are telling me to do, and give it a month and get through at least a CTP phase and see how things go. And maybe things will get better. So, the initial struggles are there because you have this huge checklist that you've never committed to before. You have to focus on your sleep, hydration, steps, meal prepping, training. I've never really weight trained consistently. So, time management was definitely a challenge, but I committed to the daily checklist day in and day out. And I also remember listening to one of the coaching calls, the weekly coaching calls, and Coach Ed said this. This was probably a few months in, and he said, just check in weekly and do what is asked of you and leave your progress to your coaches. And I think for me, that's when the light bulb moment happened. And so I stopped worrying so much about where is this process taking me and how fast is it taking me there. And I just focused, I broke it down into very basic steps, follow the checklist and check in every week and keep moving forward. And I think doing those things helped. Also becoming a morning person. I don't know how it happened, but gradually, just to be able to fit everything in, I would wake up 2 hours before my kids woke up. And my entire life, I've wanted to be a morning person. And, the exclusive, the 6 a.m. club. Well, I joined the 5 a.m. club. And I would rise, before my kids. And I would get my steps in. I would listen to a podcast. I would think about my day. And I would get my training in. And I think doing this, thinking about it was almost a meditative process. So thinking about my day, all of that, becoming a morning person really helped get that checklist done.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
And then what would happen after? Talk us through a day in the life of Priya.
Yeah. So I would get up in the morning, do my training, all of that, and meal prep was a Sunday ritual. So the day before the week. So every Sunday.
And you do the whole week? You do the whole week?
I would at least prepare most of my protein on Sundays, and then midweek I would do another simple meal prep. So I'm a working mom, so Monday to Friday the kids are at school, I'm at work, and actually eating the same things every day was not boring. It alleviated extensive decision fatigue around meal planning. So during periods when I was tired or the kids were sick or I had mounting personal commitments, having my food prepared was the one thing that was kind of a savior during the week. I even got to a point where I was prepping the kids' meals. And they had a section in the fridge and I had a section in the fridge and my meals are ready to go. And after the CTP phase, I worked with my coach to figure out foods that I enjoyed and I liked. And I basically stuck to that same meal plan for my entire year, aside from calorie and macro adjustments. So doing the meal prep on Sunday, setting my intentions for the week and having my containers put out in the fridge. So all I had to do was grab breakfast, grab my Greek yogurt, warm up grab my container of my protein and vegetables and avocado and pack that in my lunch. And I was good to go. So most of the day was at work or at school, but then I also had dinner prepped and, at least the protein portion. So just having the protein prepped on Sundays and then doing meal prep twice a week was a game changer for me.
What was different about this process when you're going through it compared to all the different things you tried, especially in the early to mid phases? What was different that you found?
I would have to say, well, the one thing was, from the beginning through RNT, I managed my expectations that the body of my dreams is not going to happen in 12 weeks. And as I engaged in the process, I realized that more and more, the body of your dream takes 2 to 5 years to build. So having my expectations managed was one very important thing. The level of accountability that RNT has provided me, checking in with my cohort, checking in with my coaches. Every Sunday, I check in. I didn't check in. I check in now. It took me a while to realize the importance of the check-in, because we're on an online platform. On the weeks that my weight loss didn't happen at the 1%, I wouldn't check in. And that was the opposite to what I should have been doing. As I continued in the process phase, I came to realize that life happens. Everyone gets busy, people get sick. You may have personal obligations that conflict with your ability to do your training or your steps. But that is even more reason to touch base with your coaches, touch base with your cohort. Because if your coaches don't know what you're going through, they can't provide support. And in fact, when you do check in on your bad weeks, your coaches can actually help you re-strategize and prioritize things that you can get done. So, once I started to do that, I felt like the momentum built and I was finally in flow. But I had to sit with that accountability, not hide, and really feel like I was accountable to my coach, accountable to my cohort. So I think that was different with RNT that I had never experienced before.
Talk to me about fear of accountability and that running away when life gets in the way or things get tough, because that's the common trap to fall into. One week goes, it's been a bad week, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. Next thing you know, it's been a month, 3 months, a year's gone. How do you embrace that fear of accountability? And what was going through your head? Because I can imagine in that moment, you were starting to think, oh, it's just another one again.
I know many weeks I didn't check in. And it was primarily the weeks that I got extremely busy or I didn't hit my 1% weight loss goal. And I think through the process of listening to weekly coaching calls and listening to the journey of others and the struggle of others, I realized that I will get out of this process what I put in. And in order to get support, I cannot be invisible. I have to be present. And in order to build integrity with myself, I have to commit to this. And so somewhere along the way, maybe I would say a few months in, after having periods of not checking in, I think maybe it was one of your posts at some point on social media about, you'll get out of this process what you put in, and about the layers of accountability that kind of hit home for me. And I realized that there were periods of time where I would become invisible. And I think initially, on a bad week, I decided to post about my challenges to my cohort. And I got tremendous support from not only my coach, but also the other women in my cohort. And that in itself felt very comforting. And so doing that once helped me do it the next time I had challenges. And eventually I got to a process of checking in was a part of my checklist. A weekly, I had a weekly checklist, and that was part of it. Meal prep, check in with my team, check in with my coaches. And so, once you start doing certain things, you build momentum, and then you continue to do those. I would say one of the challenges I had was posting training videos, and I didn't do that consistently. And that was a personal goal I set for myself in year 2 during consolidation. But I paid for that as well, because there was a lot of corrective training actions I needed to take. And I actually had to, on some of my gains. I had to reduce weight by 50% because I had not consistently posted training videos. And I think part of it was, maybe I was a little bit embarrassed to post these videos, but that was the one thing I was lacking. And that happened near the end of my process phase into my consolidation phase. But now I have committed to posting weekly training videos along with my every Sunday checking in with my coaches and cohort.
Amazing. You mentioned you had a few challenges that you were facing regularly. Mm-hmm. What were some of these challenges that you felt during the process phase?
Mm-hmm. It was either, sometimes my kids would get sick or I would get sick and everything would just become overwhelming. I was unable to commit to training or commit to my cardio, commit to finishing my steps. But if I'd actually checked in during those weeks, my coach probably would have helped me prioritize the nutrition piece over getting my steps in. And so those are some challenges. Other challenges were vacations and socials. And so if I had a Friday night out where, maybe I indulged a little too much within the guidance, but eating out will cause weight fluctuations. So a social or a vacation, that would derail me or actually make me feel guilty and derail me from my progress. And then again, I would consider that as a challenge, and then it would lead to me maybe not checking in.
And how would you overcome some of these, like if your kids are ill or socials are building up, travel, how are you overcoming these to continue to progress with your own goals that you set yourself?
Well, one thing I've come to realize with RNT is the social or the vacation is not the goal. The goal is the mindset. The body of my dreams takes 2 to 5 years. Okay. I understand that. But what about the mindset that's going to support this body and support this body long term? How long does that take? And so I've come to realize that the mindset is the goal. And despite the social, despite the vacation, I have to be the person that's accountable to herself. And I think understanding that piece, that life happens, kids will get sick, a vacation will come and go, but making the best choices possible during those times is the best I can ask of myself.
Who did you... Go on. No, go on.
And so I think understanding that and switching that mindset has helped navigate that.
Who in your mind did you want to become through this year and this journey?
Mita. She's a South Asian woman. I'm in healthcare.
Oh, Mita Mana as in the RNT?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I watched her very closely during her transformation. But even more recently, Karen is someone who I think is just amazing. I've listened to her podcast recently and seeing, both 2 other South Asian women who are, one has kids and has a kid and is managing life, and crushing their goals. I think those are 2 women I've looked up to during this process.
What about yourself? Who in your mind did you want to become?
I wanted to become someone that my daughters look up to. I wanted to, my goal for this transformation journey was as much physical as it was mental. I had a very clear why when I started this journey, and I really wanted this physical transformation to kind of help clear some of this mental clutter in my mind. And I wanted to become mentally stronger. And I wanted my physical transformation to make me emotionally stronger. And so, I wanted to become the person I had in mind was a strong mother who can balance, personal goals, balance taking care of her kids, manage work responsibilities, because especially as a busy working mother, there's so much thrown at you, so much work-wise, socially, responsibilities, mom guilt. Am I present enough? Am I doing enough for my kids? So I wanted to become this person who had a focus on her health, who was able to set personal boundaries, whether it's with friends or even my kids or colleagues. I wanted to become this mentally strong person. And I knew that if I was physically strong, I would become mentally strong.
How did you describe your journey to your kids? Or have you had the discussion about what you're doing?
I've had, they watch, they see. So yes, I've had multiple conversations with them about this. And I said, I read a quote recently that self-care is not self-indulgent, it's self-preservation. So, as someone who's in her 40s, and I work at a cancer center, I'm very aware of the prevalence of cancer in young people. So, I've said to them, my kids, that being healthy will help mom be more present for you. It will help me be more conscious, just be a more conscious parent. So I've had these conversations, in a more simple manner. And, it's important for me to, especially now in my 40s, to think about how I'm aging, think about my long-term health goals, not just my aesthetics. And I've never talked about aesthetically, what this journey has done for me. It's always been about strength, physical strength and mental strength. And that's what I impart on my kids.
Yeah, I think I like how you said that they watch you, because that's the most powerful conversation you can have, right? They learn by your actions.
Correct. Yeah.
That's probably your biggest accountability there.
Yes. And so, saying that you should eat your fruits and vegetables, and if I'm not engaging in those behaviors, then they don't feel like they need to emulate those behaviors. So I think just seeing me eat healthier, prioritize my health and wellness, and if I'm doing steps inside or outside, they'll go for a walk with me. So changing the paradigm from, hey, let's sit down and watch a movie, to, hey, let's go outside and get some fresh air and get a walk in.
Amazing. So you were going through the process, starting to pick up some traction as you started building in the check-in habit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decided to book a photo shoot in January, February, or was it March?
It was end of February. Even though my checkpoint was predicted for October, but it took me until end of February to hit that checkpoint.
Okay, which, like you said, you got there in the end. You got to talk to us about, firstly, the decision to book a photo shoot, which I don't know if that was on the cards for you at the beginning. Where that came from, and then also the journey to the photo shoot. How did, once you started getting traction and you're starting seeing your body in ways that you may not have seen before at all, what was going through your mind?
I was very anxious to book a photo shoot. I am someone who has spent years hiding from the camera, hiding, just hiding. And the decision to book a photo shoot was not quite secured. I think through the months of January and February, I toyed back and forth with the idea. But I knew if I wanted to celebrate the journey in its entirety, this was something I had to do for myself. And I knew, in order to build that level of accountability through the grind phase, I needed to have that goal at the end. And I'm very glad I booked the photo shoot, because it just heightened the excitement and the accountability to just another level. And so, the grind phase is a challenging phase. And if it wasn't for that photo shoot, I don't think I would have been as successful through the grind phase. So again, my philosophy through RNT has always been, when I have the momentum, instead of hesitating, just got to do it, and we'll see how it goes. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's go step by step, and we'll get there eventually. And so I just decided that to celebrate the entire journey, that this was something I wanted to do, and not hide, and celebrate me. And so,
and describe that moment, because you started this conversation by saying you remember seeing yourself as a 12-year-old in the mirror. Well, as long as you've ever been conscious of your body, now you're doing a photo shoot in the sunshine, looking amazing. Describe that.
It is. It's the whole. I mean, it's a very hard to describe feeling. I mean, there was just so much excitement, and I actually had my kids participate in the photo shoot with me.
Oh wow!
And I wanted them to see, mom's hard work. And I actually have a photo with the girls, me like making this pose, and the girls hanging off of my biceps, essentially, or touching. And I think that pretty much summed up what that photo shoot meant to me. It was a celebration. But and I was also aware that this is not the end. There was, when I saw the photos, I touched base with my coach after, and I said, I think I could have gotten leaner or done better. That self-doubt does trickle in, but you have to talk through what is the price that you have to pay to get even leaner, to maybe have your abs completely show. So I had some moments of doubt during the photo shoot. But for the most part, it was celebratory. I had my kids with me, watching me, and I think it was nothing short of just amazing for me.
And what did you learn in those final few weeks towards your shoot? Because that's where you're stripped away from all the external crutches. What did you learn? And what then we can discuss what we've taken to your life now.
The whole grind phase, which probably lasted a few weeks for me. So it was, in hindsight, it wasn't that long, but it was taxing. You're tired, you're cranky with your children, you're cranky with your family. But you almost go into autopilot, and I, instead of rebelling against the process, I just leaned into that process, and I did what was asked of me, and I thought, okay, my coaches have gotten me here this far, so this is what I need to get to that point of that photo shoot, and almost like a meditative process. I stuck to the same systems and strategies I had in place from before, and continued on. So I think just persevering through the exhaustion, through the fatigue, was very important, and it helped me build integrity with myself and trust with myself. And I think that was very important from a long-term standpoint, because I think that's what's been missing in my life. It's not the lack of knowledge that you need to eat healthy, you need to work out to have a fit body. It's showing up every day for yourself, and showing up consistently through the difficult times, through the exhaustion, through the sick times. And I think even during the grind phase, there was a few days I was sick, but again, I did the best that I could. And as long as I was consistent, and showing up for myself, I thought I did pretty well during that phase.
You said integrity was a big learning point for you. Where have you seen a lack of integrity showing up in your life beforehand? Where was it impacting you?
I would say committing to a program, dropping out of a program. Work-wise, I've always, in my career, I've always been consistent, and I've always committed to my work responsibilities. As a parent, I've always been, I've tried to do my best as a parent as well. But I think it was in the area of my health and my fitness that I've lacked integrity, because I would spend hours researching the next fad diet, doing it for a few weeks, dropping out of it, then looking for the next fad diet, doing that for a few weeks. And then, so I think that to me did not build integrity with myself.
One thing I think you mentioned throughout this podcast is a struggled relationship with food, or a difficult relationship with food. How have you found it since your checkpoint, when you haven't got that prize, so to speak, that's driving you and keeping you accountable on those tired nights when you just want to chill out? How have you found your relationship with food, your eating habits, your things which you've struggled with in the past, and battling that and battling the new identity that you're trying to step into? Have you experienced self-sabotage? Have you experienced going back, reversions that you've had to sort of work your way through?
Yeah, post photo shoot, post checkpoint, it's been more challenging than I thought, but challenging in a different way. The mindset piece is definitely a work in progress. After focusing so long on the scale, both the food scale and the weighing scale, but letting go of that attachment to the scale has been my struggle. Finding balance where I am still weighing my food. I am still weighing myself daily, because I think I'm too early in my journey in consolidation to let go of those. But I've worked with my coach to maybe have one untracked meal a week, or during travel time, maybe not packing food scales and not weighing myself, and that kind of stuff. But I would say it's been a struggle, especially as a woman. There's this stigma, especially when you get lean, you get so much attention. There's a stigma and this fear that you will rebound and gain weight, that I've had to internally battle. And I think I've needed the help of my coach to remind me that my goals now are more performance focused and lifestyle focused. And so the words that come out of my mouth when I check in about putting so much emotional attachment to food does not align with this new identity that I'm trying to build. I think also having female coaches who are going through their own journey, like Chloe, who have talked about, embracing the fluff, and who struggled with gaining that weight, just embracing that part of the journey has been very helpful. And so I think listening to the female coaches, listening to the coaching calls, all of that in combination is helping me slowly alter my mindset. And,
Go on.
I was at 12 weeks post checkpoint. I still struggle, and it's a weekly struggle, but slowly I am being more conscious of the things that I'm saying and see if they are in line with those long-term performance goals.
Would you be able to be more specific with some of these struggles that you're facing? Like, what are some examples, scenarios, or things that you're experiencing where you think, I'm in a conflict of my identity, that this is the old me, I'm trying to become this person? Because that's what it's all about, right? After the checkpoint, it's okay, this is who I want to become. This is the old person. Now let me see if I can get to that. I need to shed the skin and get there. But it's going to be hard, right? So give us some examples.
So when I have an untracked meal on the weekends, as planned, I'll weigh myself the next day, and I will tie in how I feel that day to what that scale weight says. So that's one struggle I've experienced, and letting go of that attachment to the scale. tying in my self-worth to what I ate the night before, to what is reflected on the scale. The other thing that I've always been a snacker. So there are times when I find myself under stress or boredom, snacking again, and then snacking on healthy foods, things that are set in my meal plan, but maybe having an extra serving of those, of the peanut butter or of the granola or whatever that is. And then again, checking the scale weight the next day and tying my self-worth to that. And I've had to work hard to realize that no food is a bad food. It's that quantity of food, whether it's suitable for you or not, or is this thing that I'm eating suitable for my goals, my performance goals? So it's that old identity, that snacker, that person who attaches their worth to the scale that keeps pulling me from this new identity. That's a work in progress.
And what do you feel when you say you match your self-worth? What does that mean?
This past week we had on the coaching call, this whole idea of feeling morally superior when you eat healthy. You feel morally superior when you're healthy and lean and thin and making good choices. And so I think always feeling not quite worthy, not quite attractive because I was overweight. It's part of that identity, just breaking that identity and having that mind shift that I am not morally superior because I had a cookie, or I am not morally inferior because I overindulged one day,
That's interesting.
So yeah.
Like a status game.
And I think a lot of other members in year two are experiencing that struggle. And we talk about that, I'm actually doing pretty well going out and eating where I'm in the presence of company. It's what I do in private when I'm alone, the snacking habits that tend to trickle in, and trying not to get emotionally charged about that, if I do overindulge one day, it's okay, but I have to think about, is this habit solving the boredom, solving the anxiety, or is it just, is this the right coping mechanism? Or is this just fueling those bad habits?
Do you think those bad habits are the same ones you described at the beginning, like when you were watching TV as a kid?
Yes. I want to go to a place where food is just food. Food is not a friend. Food is not an enemy. It's just food is food. And if I want something, I should be able to have it in moderation. There's no good food or bad food. I'm not a better person because I had a Greek yogurt versus the ice cream. Just taking that, taking all of that emotional charge around food and just using it as is. If I'm out and socializing, enjoying the meal, enjoying the company of friends, but not becoming so food focused. And I think the more I focus on food, the more I propagate that unhealthy relationship with it.
Have you had a conversation with your mother since going on this journey?
She's watched me on this journey. She's commented that I've lost too much weight. But I have not had a deeper conversation as to why I've gone on this journey and what this journey has meant to me. And, some of those childhood struggles that I had.
Is that something you think you want to do?
I think that's something that I I think that would help. Yeah, I didn't think about having that conversation, but I think it would be a helpful conversation to have, especially because, you know, as a child, my parents did the best that they could for the knowledge that they had and the struggles that they themselves are facing. So I think it's important to acknowledge her struggle and her doing the best that she could. And I think it would help for me to show her that I am trying better and doing better for my daughters. And I think that's part of, you know, the dream that they had is that, you know, when you know better, you do better. And I think having that conversation would be probably important for her and for me.
For sure. How about your sister? Has she been through the same struggles as you?
She has struggled a little bit less than me, but she has watched this journey, and she's actually vegetarian, and she's you know, toyed with being vegan. So she follows you now on social media, and she's followed your journey. And so I think that has given her confidence that as a vegetarian, you know, she's not quite vegan, but as a vegetarian, she can get her protein in. She can prioritize her nutrition. So I've seen her make distinct changes to her nutritional habits just by watching me. She's helped me meal prep. So now she's started doing meal prep for herself. And, you know, and the basis of her meals now are tofu or tempeh instead of, you know, being very carb heavy, but more macro balanced. She participated in the photo shoot with me. Oh, and so, so I wanted to have, you know, she has helped me raise my kids. So I think it was very important for her to be present in the photo shoot to celebrate with me. And so I think I've watched her unconsciously and consciously make changes in her life.
Amazing. How's the physical been the vehicle for you, Priya?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. You know, like I said, I had a very clear why of starting this journey, and I wanted this physical transformation to mentally transform me so I could be the best version of myself for my daughters. And I have found that making my body strong, I have made my mind strong. Shedding that physical weight has allowed me to shed some of that emotional baggage I was carrying around. You know, just doing the daily and the weekly things like meal prepping, exercising, training, getting lean, getting strong, showing up for myself every day has helped me build trust in myself, has helped me build integrity with myself. It's allowed me to clear that mental clutter that was taking up so much bandwidth. And, you know, as a working mother, my mind used to just feel so cluttered, and I used to feel so overwhelmed by it. And I think that would prevent me from being as conscious a parent as I wanted to be and be more present with my daughters. So just clearing out my mind has been nothing short of mentally restorative for me. And, you know, I feel like I'm setting an example for friends, for family members, for my daughters. And I'm able to set clearer boundaries. When my health was out of sorts, my priorities were out of sorts. Now having my health and priorities clear, my boundaries clear, I feel like I can, you know, work through some of the daily muck that is thrown at you and not feel overwhelmed by it. And I think if that's not a transformation, I don't know what else is, you know, and it's a very nice feeling to have that peace of mind.
Amazing. And that is a transformation indeed, on many, many different levels. You're now into the second year of your RNT journey. What are you What's next for you? Where do you want to be a year from now, personally?
Personally, a year from now, definitely I'm focusing on performance goals. So training, posting training videos. I've had to do corrective actions on some of my training. So, just making those performance gains and moving away probably from weighing everything, weighing myself, and moving away from the scale, but focusing more on getting strong and on getting fitter, and maybe even having a second photo shoot where I celebrate a second year of the journey and see how my body's changed from a performance standpoint. Also, I think being in my 40s, I'm thinking about aging more gracefully, longevity, and things like that. So I'm, working with my coach on doing putting in some zone 2 cardio so I can work on cardiovascular health because it's very important for me from a long-term standpoint to have functional mobility and just be fit as I age. So I think those are the big goals. And then from a mindset standpoint, I want to be able to, break that emotional attachment to food and having the weighing scale and food choices gauge my self-worth, because I am more than just a food scale. I am more than just a weighing scale. So I think those are my big goals for this coming year, and it may not be as shiny, but it's a lot of mental work that needs to go into it to make those changes happen.
It's an identity shift more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What would you say to someone who's gonna go?
No, I'm saying I think that's been the work in progress now.
Yeah, and it's always the longer game, and it's the least tangible one. It's not like you can't mark your identity of like where you're transforming. Oh, yeah, I've got this many points to go. It's just it just happens organically over time, and you just got to keep reinforcing behaviors and tuning into the negative loops that you're experiencing and seeing how you can rectify and improve them as you go along.
Right. Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's kickstarting their journey right at the beginning?
Someone who's right at the beginning of their journey. First of all, congratulations. This is one of the committing to your health is one of the best commitments you can make to yourself. And the big thing I would say is just get started. Get started. Don't try to perfect everything, but listen to the coaches, follow the checklist. Don't try to control the process, but follow the process and feel integrated into the process. Do the things that are asked of you, follow your daily checklist, check in with your coaches weekly, post training videos. So do all of the fundamental stuff that will help change that identity over time. And as the physical changes happen, the identity shift will happen, and you will eventually become that person that you look up to.
I love it. Have you got any final words for the listeners?
I mean, as a single, busy working mother who had incredible self-doubt, and I thought maybe I'm a metabolic or genetic abnormality, and I came to find out that my problems and my challenges were very common. I just committed to the process, and it worked. And the coaches, the team of coaches that you have are out of this world. I mean, they are knowledgeable in mindset, training, nutrition. They are very transparent of their own journey. So they're not doing something different to what they're telling you. So I think trusting the coaches is very important. And I'm just letting the process flow, and it will flow eventually.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being so honest about your journey and struggles you face, but most of all, the transformation you've experienced. It's been inspiring to watch, and I'm very happy for everything you've achieved so far on this journey.
Thank you so much.